Hello and welcome to the measuring segment of the matting process. To start, you will need your artwork, a ruler. It can be 12 inches, 18 inches, or a yardstick, depending on how big your artwork is, something to write with, and a set of matting instructions. To start, this particular piece of artwork is taped to the board, and this may occur with watercolors or pastels, charcoals. And I'm going to pull the tape off, but I want to pull the tape off away from the artwork. This ensures that the tape doesn't pull and catch a piece of paper and tear your artwork. Now what we're left with is a white border around the edges. I don't want to see this white border in my final matting or my final product, so I am going to exclude that from my measurements. I have two sets of 18-inch rulers here, and they are different. Both of these are in the classroom. One has a square edge and then another a little bit more rounded. But what's truly different about them, this ruler starts with the measurement at the very end, and this one starts with a measurement a little bit further in, a quarter of an inch, maybe less. This is important because if you have a small piece of artwork, a quarter of an inch can be a pretty big deal. That may throw off your measurements so that you see the white space, or even your artwork falls through the window of your mat. So just take note, look at the beginning of your ruler, and don't assume that the measurements start at the very end. So I don't include the white space. I'm actually going to try and start with the thickest area of the white border there. Let's see. There, it looks good. And it looks like we are at height-wise at 8 3/4. Now what I tell you to do, this is pretty cut and dry for this measurement, but if you are falling into 8ths or 16ths, you can round your measurement down to the nearest fourth. When we get into the 16ths, sometimes if students get into the 16ths or the 8ths, I start to see very tricky measurements in math with decimal points, and they're not even sure what they're measuring. So we have enough leeway that rounding it down to the nearest fourth is acceptable and accurate. Okay, for my width, it looks like I'm going to be at 11 3/4. So now I need to add 3.5 to 11 3/4. And 8 3/4 to 4. These measurements that we came up with, this is going to be the size of your mat. Next, we're going to go over and cut your mat to size.